Your love is like radiant diamonds bursting inside us, we cannot contain.
Hi, my friends. Welcome back to Faith and Family. Happy Thursday. Today is Thursday, May 14th. Sorry, took me a minute. May 14th. It is the feast day of Saint Matthias. Pretty cool. And we have wrapped up all of our saints that our parish hall is named after. We did all of them. We started with Saint Gregory the Great, our patron for our parish. And then we also talked about Saint Augustine and Saint Benedict and Saint Cecilia and Saint Didacus and Saint Elizabeth and Saint Francis and Saint Helen or Saint Helena. And then we also yesterday talked about Our Lady of Fatima, because it was the feast day of Our Lady of Fatima yesterday as well. So I really enjoyed doing that with you. We are going to talk about two more saints today and tomorrow. And today is the feast day of Saint Matthias, so we're going to talk about him. And Saint Matthias, I honestly didn't even really know that much about him before I looked him up. But interestingly enough, Saint Matthias was actually an apostle. But you really don't hear about him too much in the Bible, and that's because he's not one of the original 12 apostles. So when Jesus was alive, he chose his 12 apostles. He picked them out on his own. But then when Jesus was alive, like we talked about on Holy Thursday, Judas, who was an apostle, had betrayed Jesus. He went and he told the Roman officials where they could find Jesus so they could capture him and arrest him. And then he fled. So obviously Judas was not considered an apostle anymore after that. And it just remained the 11 of them for a very long time. It was, Jesus had died, he was crucified, he was in the tomb for 3 days, and then he resurrected. And it wasn't until he actually ascended and went back up to heaven that Peter said, you know what? We never got around to replacing Judas, and we need to have 12 apostles. So they decided to appoint a new one. So St. Matthias is unique because he wasn't picked by Jesus while Jesus was alive. He was actually voted in. Peter told the other apostles, and you can actually read this in the Bible. You can go into the Acts of the Apostles and read about the story of when this happened. Peter said, we need to find a replacement for Judas. Let's all pray and vote. And so the 11 voted, and they chose St. Matthias. So we hear about him being chosen and becoming an apostle, but we don't really know too much else about him. We know that he was a follower of Jesus. So he had actually begun following Jesus when Jesus was baptized in the River Jordan by John the Baptist. So he was a follower of Jesus. He followed him all throughout his public ministry. He knew who Jesus was, which makes sense because that's probably why the other apostles voted for him. But and then obviously after he was chosen, he traveled along the coast of the Caspian Sea, and he preached there. And we know that he was a martyr. We don't know exactly how he was martyred, but we do know that he did die for his love of Jesus, for his faith. And so if ever you go to daily mass, you might notice that on anytime a feast day of a saint, of a martyr, is on a certain day, sometimes the priest will wear red, and that's just to represent the martyrdom of that saint. So if we were having daily mass today, the priest celebrating might wear the color red to commemorate the martyrdom of Saint Matthias. And this was actually really interesting too. So his remains were actually found by Saint Helen. So who we talked about yesterday, how she traveled and she'd find all these holy relics. She actually found the relics of Saint Matthias and she brought them back. She brought them back to Rome, but then they were later taken to Padua, which is in Italy, and there was a shrine built there, and his remains are still there in Padua. So pretty amazing when you see how all the saints are helping each other out. So that's St. Matthias. So there's not a lot, like I said, there's not a lot of information on him, but I like to think about how we're kind of like St. Matthias. You know, he wasn't chosen. He wasn't, you know, really famous. Nobody really knew who he was. He was just a follower of Jesus. And it wasn't until much time after Jesus had been crucified and then resurrected and then ascended, and then he was called in to be an apostle. So it's kind of like us. We're followers of Jesus, and we never know when when we're going to be called in to become apostles and to spread the gospel just like him. So I like to think of it that way. All right, my friends, we will be back tomorrow to talk about one more saint. Tomorrow will be our last faith and family video. Can you believe it? I don't even know how many it's been. 30, almost 40 episodes. Can you believe it? I can't. But yes, we'll have our last episode tomorrow. But don't worry, we're going to do some more fun stuff, especially this summer, and we will continue to have Children's Liturgy of the Word every Sunday available as well. So stay safe, stay well. We miss you very much, and we'll be seeing you real soon.